Great. Thank you, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like people have slowed. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are covering Charging Smart 101. My name is Carly Doolittle. I'm with the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. I'm just going to cover a couple of guidelines. Michelle, go ahead to the next slide. Just some housekeeper things. All participants are on mute, so we will not be able to hear you if you are verbally asking a question. Please try to use the Q&A tab to send us questions. We're going to have plenty of time at the end of the webinar to get through questions. There's also a closed caption option if you need it. You can select Show Caption on the control toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Just a note also that we do not allow AI note takers or bot participants in webinars, so we will be removing note takers if you brought them with you. And lastly, we will have the presentation slides, recording, and other follow-up resources shared with you in a few days. Great, I'm just going to do a super quick introduction. We're just going to have our speakers today give a little wave. Joining us is Ed Gilliland with the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. Ed is the director of the Charging Smart program and will be providing us an overview of it. We also have Mackenzie Love with the Great Plains Institute sharing her experience of running cohorts with Charging Smart. We have Devin, and Devin, I don't want to butcher your last name, so I'm not going to try, but Devin is with the city of Missoula, Montana. He'll be sharing his experience participating in Charging Smart, as well as Ruta Pollard from the city of New Orleans, who will also share his experience participate in Charging Smart. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ed.
Thank you, Carly, and welcome everybody, and good afternoon. We can go to the next slide. Just a quick introduction to the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. We are a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to support the adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency. And go to the next slide. We are comprised of three departments. One, we focus on workforce development. Another, local initiatives, and that's what houses the Charging Smart program. And then we have a third group that focuses on regulatory engagement, and they primarily work on interconnection to the grid. Next slide. So what is Charging Smart? It is a no-cost technical assistance and national recognition program that supports local governments in the growth of electric vehicles, and especially the deployment of electric vehicle charging. Go to the next slide. And we are part of a broader brand, and this is, of course, sponsored by the Department of Energy. It's a broader brand called Energy Ready, and that encapsulates both Charging Smart and Soul Smart. Soul Smart has actually been around since 2016, and you can go to the next slide. And we have now over 500 communities that are designated through the Soul Smart program. When we started Charging Smart back in the fall of 2023, we started in the pilot phase. We modeled a lot of it after Soul Smart. You can go to the next slide. In January of this year, we actually launched the program nationally, and we now have 63 communities designated, and over 100 communities are actively pursuing designation. You can see on the next slide that they are from all over the country, everywhere from California to Massachusetts to Louisiana. Hope some of you can choose to join this group as they pursue their efforts to adopt best practices in EV charging. Next slide. So really, to help facilitate this process, we have a lot of great partners. You can see here, I'm sure many of these names you recognize, particularly There's a lot of national partners kind of in the top half of this slide. And then we have partners such as Clean Cities and Communities, coalitions that are geographically focused. So they might be focused on the state or sub-state level. You can go to the next slide. We also have industry partners that we work with to review the best practices that we are putting forth to the city so that they sort of pass the test of the industry, and particularly in the sort of permitting area, the industry has been very active in working with us to put forth some good practices that are both safe and healthy, but also help facilitate a smoother permitting process. Next slide. So we pretty much do anything and everything that would support a local government in facilitating the growth of electric vehicles and EV charging in your community. And we have divided this work or this focus into these 6 categories that you see here. The planning and regulation gets a lot of attention. We do pay a lot of attention to this because permitting and regulation is often seen as a major barrier to the deployment of EV charging. So we get lots of questions and put a lot of effort into making sure that cities and counties are working to improve those practices. But we do focus on all 6 of these. And in fact, in October, we're going to be hosting a pre-conference workshop. That is a pre-conference workshop to the 4th conference that's going to be held in Detroit. And that workshop will be focusing on utility engagement and government operations. If you are interested in that, there's a link in the chat, put in the chat, and would be great to have you join us for that event. Next slide. So we have a point system to get recognized as a bronze, silver, or gold designation. And so it, of course, based on fewer points, of course, for bronze, more for silver. But if you were to get silver designation, then you would need to meet the requirements for bronze as well, and then achieve additional points for silver. And it goes on up like that for gold. So next slide. So just to give you a flavor for how the designation works, I'm going to talk a little bit about bronze here. But if you want, we do have other slides that are like this for silver and gold, and we can put those in the deck for you. Once you retrieve this deck, you can see those as well. But just to give you an idea, for bronze, the total of 80 points are required. And like college, there are some points, there's some things that are required, like college courses, and then you have electives. So in this case, we have about 35 points in these 4 requirements here, such as the first one, which says review zoning requirements and identify barriers to EV charging. So we have those 4 that are required. Then we have another 25 points that can be allocated over the categories of planning and education and incentives. And then finally, we have 20 points that are complete electives you can get from any of the categories. Next slide. So we do put a lot of effort into providing really good quality technical assistance. So you don't have to go through this all by yourself. It's very structured, and we spend time working with local governments to help them achieve a bronze, silver, or gold designation. We have a lot of guidebooks, we have templates, model language, and most of this is in our program guide, which goes into great detail about all 150 actions that you could potentially take as part of the city or county. And in each of the descriptions also includes links to other sources of information regarding that particular subject. So lots of backup to support you through the process of getting designated. We really aim to tailor this program for all communities at all levels. So if you're just getting into life, then go for a silver or gold designation. And of course, we can work with you in any of those capacities. Okay, next slide. So other benefits of charging, the idea here is that ultimately it's going to be save staff time as you process applications, particularly on the permitting side, as you process applications for charging or want to take other initiatives in your locality. We want to make it easy and efficient for you to do that. So ultimately, the goal here is to save time and make you as local staff more effective in doing what you want to accomplish. You would amplify the impacts of state and federal funding. You could remove unnecessary barriers and decrease the cost or soft costs that a private company has to spend in order to deploy charging. So it helps really stimulate private investment and grow that market. Next slide. And we do focus a lot on recognition. We want you as a community to have the opportunity to get recognized for your accomplishments. And so we provide, example press releases and social media text. Here we've had a celebration that you'll maybe hear about later on in this talk up in Minnesota of a cohort of communities that went through the Charging Smart program. So now if you don't have to be recognized, occasionally we'll have a community that says, we don't really want to be recognized, but for most they do, and we're there to support you. Next slide. So really next steps are, you can go online. We have our website, we have a little note, a little form you can fill out and sign. Then there's a self-assessment where you provide information on your current status and to help us work with you on determining what you want to achieve. And so and then of course, we have the website for you to go to, and we're happy to meet with you individually. So if after this, you want to just meet with us and talk further, we can do that as well. Next slide. So that's our contact information. And then the next slide has contact information in case you want to pursue SoulSmart. So thank you and look forward to your questions. And I think we have Devin is coming up next.
Thanks, Ed, and thanks, Carly, for the introduction. Excited to be here and share a little bit with this group. My name is Devin Filichikia, and use he, him pronouns, and I'm a transportation planner with the City of Missoula and the Missoula Metropolitan Planning Organization. And I'll be sharing a little bit about our experience with the Charging Smart process. Can you go to the next slide? So, as you might guess, Montana has one of the lowest electric vehicle adoption rates in the nation. In Missoula County, which is the county which the city of Missoula is in, there's about 1,125 electric vehicles on the road. That comes out to around 10 per 1,000 people. I think it's interesting to note, though, that this number is rapidly rising. So in 2023, just as a snapshot example, statewide electric vehicle registrations doubled, and we're seeing trends similar to that continue. So yeah, quickly increasing that local adoption. And just thinking about Missoula in particular, there's about 18 public charger station locations within 10 miles of the city. You can go to the next slide. So providing a little bit more background here, currently 18 chargers, 51 ports, so 51 individual plugs within those chargers within 10 miles of the city. And those ports are pretty evenly split between level two, so kind of the mid-range of charging speed, and between direct current fast chargers. So there's 26 level two and 25 DC FC chargers. And then I just kind of want to draw a comparison because I think even for myself, like the kind of that number of 18 charging ports or 18 chargers and 51 ports is kind of abstract. So comparing to another community with a much higher electric vehicle adoption rate than Missoula, Missoula County has 43 electric vehicles per direct current fast charging port. Denver County, which of course has Denver in it, has about 210 electric vehicles per direct current fast charging port. So when you compare Missoula to other communities with really high electric vehicle adoption, um, we seem to be doing better than others with the direct current fast charging, but also somewhat behind on level two. So maybe that mid-range of charging. But obviously, I think a really important piece of this puzzle is charging at home and access to that. Um, Kind of another consideration is the average daily vehicle miles traveled is about 15 miles in Missoula. So that kind of just shows that the average Missoulian is probably a perfect candidate for an electric vehicle. Um, and yeah, I just also want to include in this scope that single occupancy vehicles, more of them on the road isn't our goal. We have a fare-free electric public transit as a community. We're prioritizing multimodal transportation wherever we can. But we're also hoping that electric vehicle infrastructure can support our other community goals. So both this includes like improving our air quality, reducing our community emissions, but also maybe co-locating EV charging and e-bike charging and things like that. We can go to the next slide. Um, the next piece to kind of set the stage, I want to introduce our electric vehicle plan. So it's the MPO's electric vehicle infrastructure plan. We began drafting it in the spring of 2024, so about a year and a half now. And we aim to create strategies to address and support EV adoption in the planning area, which is a little bit bigger than city limits, a little bit smaller than the entire county. The pieces of the plan are split into some existing conditions. I think the existing condition serves as some background information for the community. And I really hope more than anything, it's like a space to answer all the questions folks have about EVs before they ask them. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of the very true things being shared about electric vehicles, and then the other pieces that maybe aren't true or only true in certain circumstances. So that existing conditions kind of serves as our literature review for the community. And then the next piece is the strategies and next steps. We look for the next 5 years, and in that time, I suspect a lot of these will rapidly change as well. Um, but those strategies and next steps, as we have them now, are really largely informed by the Charging Smart program. So even though we went through this EV infrastructure planning process, the Charging Smart program really informed what we're including when we began to draft the strategies. We can go to the next slide. So, yeah, kind of introducing the our community's relationship to Charging Smart. I first met Ed at a fourth mobility conference in 2024, and at that time I was newer to this position. We're just beginning to, um, yeah, and we're just beginning to think about EV planning, and the Charging Smart program was just beginning to work with communities nationwide. And because of that, we ended up really leaning on the program design more than anything to ensure our EV plan followed best practices. There's a lot of moving pieces related to electric vehicle supply equipment or EV charging. And, I really think that the Charging Smart scorecard and the rest of the program helped us not miss a critical piece of that. We can go to the next slide. We initially sought the silver designation, but we had a code update timeline that kept getting pushed back. So we ended up going with a bronze designation. designation. Um, so kind of our hope here is that the bronze to silver um, shift will help us kind of tell the story to our community about how our updated unified development code supports electric vehicle supply equipment and EV charging in our community. Um, Another piece I want to highlight is that the scorecard was adaptable given our unique state landscape. So in Montana, and probably in a couple other states, there is state preemption restricting things like EV ready ordinances. And even though it is considered a best practice in the Charging Smart program, they were able to work with us so that it wasn't a requirement that like made us ineligible for a designation. So that was really helpful, and I think we're really appreciative of that piece. And I think another piece that's exciting about the program is how it supports innovation. So, in particular, we're interested in piloting an across sidewalk charging program. The hope here is to support at-home charging for those without access to a garage or driveway. You can see here that's a photo from, I think, Cambridge. They really were in one of the first communities piloting this across sidewalk charging program. And because of the innovation pieces of Charging Smart, once we begin this pilot, we'll be able to receive points for this innovative action, even though it's not, one of the things to check off on the scorecard. We can go to the next slide. So the program initially informed our electric vehicle infrastructure plan, but now that the plan is adopted, and we're following the strategies, it really continues to inform our work related to electric vehicles. One piece is that the Charging Smart program provided real-world examples that we could model. So if we weren't familiar with like the best language to use for a specific policy or something, we could use an example from another community. And um, right now, as we're working to update our new code, I really think we would have been lost without these examples. We knew that we could follow these clear recommendations and they would typically align with best practice. And also, as we built our website, the scorecards kind of served as a checklist of key pieces, um, trying to distill this, very long document of the electric vehicle infrastructure plan into a simple website was daunting. But I think the structure in the program kind of helped us pull out what were the most critical things to include on an online platform for the public. Um, and also, more than anything, I think the program serves as a roadmap of how we can improve. So we're really excited that this EV infrastructure plan has been adopted and looking forward to carrying out the strategies contained within it. But also, we have a really good idea of what our next actions are once we accomplish those strategies we highlighted. And yeah, I think that's one of the cool pieces about the different designations of Charging Smart. We can go to the next slide. I think the last piece in telling the story I really want to pull out is that for our community, the Charging Smart program came to us at an ideal time. We're just beginning our EV infrastructure plan, and we're really looking for a program that we could use to guide that process. Um, but I think there's a lot of transferability in this program that maybe isn't contained in our story. So I think that no matter where your community is at with EV planning, um, like as Ed mentioned, if you're brand new to it or if you've been doing it for a long time, I still think the Charging Smart program is pretty useful. And I think it's useful as a standalone tool as well. So I think the program itself can kind of serve as a pseudo plan if your community doesn't have capacity or time to really think about EV infrastructure in its own. And also, I think in our case, our EV infrastructure plan is a much more valuable tool because of Charging Smart. When I began drafting the plan, I conducted a literature review of 42 other community plans. And then I tried to distill the best parts into a draft to inform our work. And while this literature review is really helpful, I think the Charging Smart program was far more comprehensive and far more helpful than this robust literature review. It saved us a lot of time, and I think it helped us ensure that we didn't end up drafting a subpar plan that was missing some critical pieces for our community. You can go to the next slide. And here's my contact info. Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you have any questions to put them in the chat. But I'm also glad to answer any questions if you have any. And then that QR code in the top left corner will send you to our community's EV infrastructure plan, just in case you're curious or want to learn more about the work we're doing here. But yeah, glad to answer any questions later. And thanks for being here. And Ruta, I think I'm passing it off to you.
Well, I am always fearful when someone says my name on a webinar. So thank you. Yes, I am next. uh, so one, my name is Ruta. I represent the City of New Orleans and the Office of Economic Development. More about me or less about me later. We can go to the next slide. I'm happy to kind of move along. So the one thing, guys, that I want you to feel comfortable with is not that you have to read every thing on any of these slides. I think that they'll be provided to you, but I hope to provide some insights into some of the things that like we're into over in New Orleans. But this slide presents New Orleans' interest in kind of investing in renewables, and how we're looking to adopt more resilient practices and share some zero emission, and increase our share of zero emission vehicles. Next slide, please. Continuing on that pathway, right, is it like this slide shows that there's great potential across the New Orleans Metro for those types of reductions. Next slide, please. There are a couple of different plans that we have across the city. One of the main ones that we focus on is the Net Zero by 2050 Climate Action Plan. Those plans are publicly available. There are also links that are embedded within the slide deck. Happy for you guys to have that. We can move to the next slide as well. The additional one is the Plan for Generational Economic Transformation. That's where I sit in the Office of Economic Development. And a lot of people are, maybe a little confused as to why this guy in economic development is talking about the sustainable or renewable or, new energy generations. Well, if we go to the next slide, you can see that there are very many types of alignments or very many points of alignment between the two plans. We kind of piggyback off of each other and work as a team to identify policies or economic development opportunities to better our infrastructure. We can go to the next slide. In New Orleans, we are not new to needing help, and we appreciate maintaining relationships. So lots of our kind of most recent interests come from some of our more recent partnerships. One of them being with the DOE's Department of Energy's CLEAP program or pilot program, and I'll touch on that just a little bit more later, and we can move to the next slide to talk about why transportation electrification in New Orleans, right? So what we need to do in New Orleans to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions is kind of get to, or we want to get to zero by 2050. And our transportation accounts for nearly 43% of those greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. So what have we done recently to kind of progress that initiative is we've installed or we've partnered with Entergy New Orleans to install 30 EV chargers and to increase our EV fleet within the city. Next slide, please. The number of EV chargers that we have is increasing, and the ones that are the most popular are listed here. So we've got 10 of them that people really, really like using. Again, I try to post a bunch of things that are publicly available. So if you're interested in going to see them, you can, or better yet, come down to New Orleans and test some of them out, right? If we go to the next slide. Um, this is what I was talking about when I said we like to maintain our partnerships, and and I'll say that I was going to touch on this a little bit later. So in that CLEAP process, the CLEAP pilot process, um, we identify that there is going to be like increased interest across New Orleans for EVs. And so that little blue line in there, I think that's the one, it's hard for me to read as well, is demonstrating the level of interest across like the New Orleans metro for EV interest. Next slide, please. So now we'll kind of get into the meat of why I might be talking to you guys, and it has to do with charging smart, right? And what, um, while while this is a very hard thing, right? Um, but I also think that it's important to highlight the commitment that everybody has, both in the city of New Orleans and with the the Charging Smart TA team. You might not be able to see all of this, and for those who don't actually know, right, I just want you to pay attention to some of the dates, and if you know anything about timelines or the news, you might know something's happening in the beginning of the year of 2025. That date for the picture there is February 3rd. And then if you look over to, I think it's your left, maybe my right, whichever one it is in the green, you'll see the dates, right, for some Mardi Gras festivities. And you might be able to tell that on February 28th, which is really close to Mardi Gras itself, like I'm texting the TA team uh while dodging beads and revelers to kind of get this like nailed down, right? So like hats off to everybody while working through some tough times, we'll call them. So moving forward in the slide deck, we can talk about, oh, next slide, please. Sorry. Uh, so we're simply just trying to get, um, we were simply just trying to get on the map is the point here. Like when we started the kind of process, we were like, all right, well, how do we get a dot to represent some of the work that we've done? But for whatever reason, this technical assistance team kept collecting points that we get for doing stuff. We were looking for bronze, but they kept adding points up. So if we can move to the next slide, I'll show you guys some of the things that we had kind of started doing, which is having dedicated web pages for EV charging. We have EV charging permitting processes. We started doing audits of the staff parking garages to identify like staff EV charging. Um, and it started to kind of snowball into a thing, right? So not like, please don't judge my artistic skill there with the like parking garage audit, you know, like that my artistic skills are limited. We can move to the next slide. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, you know, the Charge Smart team and the TA that we receive, like it's very robust. uh it may be a blessing and a curse that there are so many available resources. The one thing that this slide is demonstrating to you guys is that they try to make it seem simple with these, what is it, 6 little categories. But if you look over in the resource library, you can see the number of additional pages within that resource library, right? And it can be overwhelming, but lean in to the technical assistance teams is my advice, because they know where the stuff is and they can help you get it. Um, so like there's a wealth of knowledge that these guys have helped us out with. If we move to the next slide. So what is it? I'm giving you guys maybe a little bit of a preview. But again, these are all publicly available. So what I want to show you guys is that there is an entire office of resilience and sustainability that is specifically focused on, you know, the city's sustainability and resilience. And like we work in partnership from the Office of Economic Development. And there's a new report that's kind of coming out. It's available now, but they'll be announcing it more widely. You've got access to the QR code to get to their webpage. And you can read up on some of our efforts if you're kind of a New Orleans file, a New Orleans file. like please come out and you know, like join us to test out some of those chargers. Next slide, please. And this is probably the least important slide that I'll present is just, you know, like kind of who I am, maybe, and if you want to email me and ask me something, I'm happy to answer any questions. But in the effort of trying to practice brevity, I think that my job is to hand the mic over to Mackenzie for her piece. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ruda, and hello, everyone. Again, my name is Mackenzie Love, as Carly shared earlier. I'm a Senior Program Manager and Transportation Planner at the Great Plains Institute, or GPI. And we're a nonprofit that's dedicated to decarbonization across all sectors. But within that very large umbrella, my team focuses on supporting and empowering communities as they do their climate work, and taking best practices and lessons learned from that and making it scalable and replicable. And that is the root of what makes us so proud to be a Charging Smart partner, as you heard from my colleagues here in the participating communities, really trying to take core bits of information and expertise and make them work in a variety of contexts. So next slide, please. I'll get us to the meat of this presentation. A little bit more about GPI. I'd be happy to talk about any of this offline. My information's at the end, but one more, next slide, please. I want to talk with you a little bit about our involvement in this program. As you've heard today, it builds on a large body of knowledge and expertise from participating communities like Missoula and New Orleans and others, and industry partners that Ed mentioned, and then the program team itself. GPI is very proud to actively been contributing to that since its very inception. And in fact, we started laying the foundations for our involvement way back in 2017. Since that time, we've led several cohorts of communities as they participated in the program, including one that had participants from Minnesota and another that had participants from both Michigan and Ohio. And now we're leading a cohort that spans more states across the entirety of the Midwest. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned a cohort model, and I think it's come up a couple of times today. We have found that to be very successful as a technical assistance provider. And so I want to talk with you a little bit about what it would mean to participate in a cohort and what a cohort is, in case that becomes the best way for you and your community to be involved in Charging Smart. So what is a cohort? It's a group of communities that typically share some sort of uniting factor, be that they're going for the same level of designation, your bronze, silver, or gold, or maybe they share something about their geography, they're in a similar state or type of location, or some other uniting factor. Maybe it's all cities, maybe it's all towns, what have you. It can really be customized based on the needs of the communities involved. And we found that participating in a cohort can be beneficial to the members because it gives each of them access to individualized support. Like you heard, Missoula and New Orleans had their custom experience in Charging Smart from a technical assistance provider, but it can also supplement that with group support and larger scaled resources and connections with peers. So as a program member, we try to balance those and get the best mix for each individual community. And through the cohorts and the group settings, we offer things like monthly webinars that reach a variety of communities at one time on a topic that we think is going to have a common thread and builds on some of the best practices identified in that Charging Smart framework. We also offer office hours where communities in the cohort can just drop in and ask our staff questions, even if they're just a small question like, hey, what does this language mean? How do we get their website published? Just the small things that you might not need a full meeting for. And one of the things that we offer in this group network is an opportunity for us to get out of the way of the members and let them do the things that they're best at and rely on one another. We find it's really useful for communities to know who their peers are in terms of the actions that they're pursuing and have the option to kind of phone a friend, if you will, to reach out to somebody who really has that on the ground experience and kind of workshop things together or see what passed their board and what is palatable in the region. So that can be really useful for the cohort members to have access to both us and their peers. But of course, we want to back that up with some one-on-one support as well. We meet with every community individually to kind of do some goal setting right at the onset of their participation in Charging Smart. And then throughout their engagement, we meet with them periodically to just do some check-ins about how are things going, to help them navigate that huge resource library that Ruda alluded to make sure that they have the ones that suit exactly their needs. And do some in-depth technical assistance as needed. So if you want your technical assistance provider like GPI to help you go through your zoning code in an in-depth manner, that's available on an individual basis as well. So it's really that balance of being in the group and getting the one-on-one support when you need it and how you want it. Next slide, please. So through that balance of the group and the individual settings, we do provide a series of a wide range of offerings, including those one-on-one meetings and the peer gatherings. But there's also access to that huge library of resources, including guides and templates and community examples from across the country. And there's this goal setting process that we can help you walk through and kind of a roadmap to designation. There are a number of best practices in the Charging Smart program, and we don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed. So your technical assistance provider can really help you choose what suits your specific context and your community's goals and get on the right path and make it clear and easy what the next step forward is. We want to increase the return on investment of your staff's time by doing that kind of research and legwork for you whenever we can, and making the connections to the right peers whenever it's needed. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those resources. There is the primary resource is this program guide that's posted on the Charging Smart section of the Energy Ready website. It includes descriptions of all of the actions in the Charging Smart program and some links to specific community examples and templates or guides. I wanted to talk a little bit more about those last two things because they're so useful. Guides are kind of long form, think maybe 5 to 10 pages, and they really go in depth on a single topic and help understand all of the nuances around it, where you can find resources and some best practices that the Charging Smart core team has distilled down into a single consolidated location that can help you understand a topic very quickly. But we also have a sister to this, which is the templates, and they're shorter. Think maybe 1 page, maybe up to 5 pages. And they give you a way to start making progress immediately. It could be as simple as a fill in the blank where you make small changes to make the resource match your community's needs. Or it could give you just that 1 pager that you need to get started on a topic or determine if it's applicable to your community. So the balance of those long and short resources can really help meet you wherever you are in your progress towards electrification. That can still feel like a lot of information, so we do try to cover all of this in webinars. We do them every month, and we walk through resources and show how to use them, and usually an example of them being used, just to make them feel even more accessible. And we do record all of those and post them to our YouTube account so that members of our cohorts can watch them back if you need to, but we also recognize that most local practitioners have at least a couple of hats that they're trying to wear and can't always make the meetings, and we want folks to have the resources when and where they need them. We do bring in a whole mix of speakers to those in our cohort webinars, including our staff, other Charging Smart partners, examples from the members of the cohort. If somebody has already completed a task, maybe we'll ask them to come and present it to their peers. And we also bring in experts from our industry partners or maybe a local utility, since the utility engagement piece is such an important foundational part of getting started in the Charging Smart work. Next slide, please. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the cohorts that we've already worked with and show how they were successful. As I mentioned, we've had 2 that have already completed their work, one full of Minnesotan communities and one with Michigan and Ohio communities. And 11 of those participants earned the first Charging Smart designation. So they were very successful. We're very proud of them. You can see that photo on the right-hand side of the screen was one of our in-person recognition events with the Minnesota group. We had many of them in attendance, and it was really exciting to give them that recognition and also watch them experience it with their neighboring communities and all kind of celebrate together. We had some staff from the Minnesota DOT. We had IREX staff there, just everybody coming together to support these communities and celebrate them for what great progress they made. And we're continuing to run a new cohort now with more members. And there are other Charging Smart partners running cohorts in other areas of the country. So it can be a great resource regardless of where you are, and give you a great way to engage in the program. Next slide, please. And also, as all participation in Charging Smart does, it sets you up for continued success. We have had communities that continue in their electrification efforts, of course. I want to give you a couple examples. Roseville, Minnesota, who earned a bronze designation in the early days of Charging Smart, is unveiling its first electric fire truck next month, which is very exciting. Those heavy duty vehicles can be so difficult to get it right, and we're just thrilled for them to have this major milestone taking place. And Hopkins, Minnesota, which earned silver, is hosting an electric car share hub at a low-income multifamily housing development in their region, which is just an example of the different types of actions that Charging Smart can help give you some guidance on and bring to fruition. We do have a number of other designees that are coming back to the Charging Smart program again, which is really exciting for us because it shows to us that they valued the participation. They found it a worthwhile endeavor to engage in Charging Smart, and they trust the program to help them make the next step forward. And we hope that today is giving you kind of some insight into why that might be the case for your community as well. And we'd love to work with you to get to that same place. Next slide, please. With that in mind, if you are interested in Charging Smart after hearing from all of us, the folks who participated one-on-one with the Charging Smart team in the program, and also the folks who run cohorts like myself, we would be more than happy to talk with you. The best way to reach out is kind of go to that Energy Ready website and indicate your interest through our form there. And we do have a variety of technical assistance providers, some of whom provide support in specific geographic regions, and some of whom can work with communities in any location in the country. There's some folks, partners that run cohorts, some folks, partners rather engage with communities one-on-one. So no matter what you want or where you are, we'll find the right technical assistance provider for you so that you can get the most from Charging Smart and have it be the most accessible and easiest to move through as we can possibly make it. So whenever you're ready, we're ready, and we're very grateful that you're here today with us to talk about it. The next slide is just my contact information if you wanted to talk with me directly at any point, and I hope to be engaging with you again soon. With that in mind, I'll hand it back to the IREC team to get us through some question and answers. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. I know that was great and fascinating, and you all shared such a wide range of experiences. We do have quite a few questions coming in from the chat, and I know we only have about 10 minutes. I think the first one we will go to Ed. The question is, how long does it typically take for a city to complete the program?
Sure. So anywhere from a couple of months to maybe 6 or 8 or 9 months. So it really depends on what the city has already done. Often cities will come to us and they have taken a lot of steps already to work on their EVs and EV charging initiatives. And so they will automatically get some points. They may be able to get designated in a few months. Other times the cities will want to get silver or above. And like Devin talked about in Missoula, they will then need to make some kind of zoning amendment, and that can often take a bit longer. And so that will vary. Typically, when we do for cohorts, we usually run them about 5 or 6 months, and then allow for 1 or 2 months to for the communities once they finish the cohort to finish up their paperwork and so apply for designation.
Excellent. You answered a couple of other questions in there too, which is awesome. I'll answer this one myself. Will there be opportunities in Georgia? Yes, we are working with communities all across the country. And like Mackenzie said there at the end, we will certainly connect you with the best TA provider for your experience wherever you are, whatever you've done with EVs in the past. So we certainly can support communities in Georgia. Next one. I will go to Ed as well, and then anyone else is welcome to chime in. But how far should the government go to promote EV chargers? Did the government ever subsidize gas stations?
I do not know about the second part of that question. It might have been before my time, but I would think that at some point in the early 1900s, we probably started to realize that the horse and horse and carriages were not the transportation future in urban America, and probably did something to push more activity into cars and gas stations. But that's beyond my expertise. But how far should the government go? It's really, we don't want to tell a local government how far they should go. We really want them to sit down and as you heard from Evan and Ruda, sit down to themselves and decide what they want. And then once they are starting that process, we're there to help them along the way. We're, to the extent they want to do transportation electrification, we're there to help them and want to help them meet those goals if that's the course they choose to pursue.
Excellent. Ruda, I saw you came off of mute. Did you have something to add to that? No?
I did only
Okay.
like just a little bit. Well, the thing that I maybe wanted to share was that gas stations or these other charging stations are unique opportunities. As we sit in the Office of Economic Development looking at new energy or renewable sustainable opportunities, gas stations are unique in their ability to kind of touch a large swath of the population. So we look at them from a disaster recovery standpoint, a sustainability standpoint, and like seek to include as many additional services, if not through subsidy, at least through like policy interest or community engagement. So I can't really answer the question directly to say that if it may have been ahead of my time. I don't remember horse and buggy. I passed through Pennsylvania at some point, but had never encountered. So I can't answer the question directly, but gas stations are unique opportunities to engage the community for their services, for what they want in sustainable and renewable and disaster recovery for bringing a community back.
Great, thank you. We will go to Devin for this question. What kind of revisions to local land use ordinances are required for EV charging stations?
It's a great question. And I think it really depends on like your current local land use, but using Missoula as an example, I really think the most significant piece that really was brought up through the Charging Smart program and kind of the assessment using the program as a tool was that we hadn't addressed EV infrastructure anywhere. So considering that, yeah, it was unclear if we were considering an EV charging station, uh, allowing it in the same place that we would allow a gas station. And obviously, they're very different applications. So I think the first piece that was by far the most influential was just including it and allowing it in certain places by right, allowing in certain places as an accessory use. Because I think we're very quickly understanding that it's a lot more simple to install a couple level 2 chargers in a location than it is to figure out all the underground infrastructure and all of the pieces that go into a gas station. And also, I think typically with a gas station, you need multiple pumps to make it feasible. Whereas, for example, at the University of Montana, there's just a bunch of level 2 chargers scattered throughout campus, and in order for those to be allowed in the same zoning designation as a gas station was definitely something we needed to address. So I think the very first piece is just beginning to allow it and including it in those pieces of zoning and regulation.
Great, thank you for your answer. We have 2 questions in the chat about first responders and EVs. I'll open this up to any of our speakers today. This person says they volunteer with their local township and they're working with advocates to help promote EV adoption and expansion of public EV charging infrastructure. Some municipalities have passed fire ordinances that are quite unfriendly to EV charging. And there's some unfound fears around fire safety. Can you comment on fire ordinances and EVs? Is that part of Charging Smart? And then the other question, which is very similar, is how are communities making sure that lithium-ion batteries are being disposed of safely? And what is the training we are providing for first responders in regards to EV emergencies?
Sure, I will maybe start that. So we are not trying to replicate or duplicate the highly technical permitting and electric permitting and building permitting resources that are already out there. So, for example, the National Fire Protection Association has a lot to do with fire codes, and we recommend that localities follow those model codes, that they get training, and we give them points. We encourage them to get trained for fire prevention and through these types of organizations that are really neck deep in this very technical parts of the building and fire codes. And I think somebody else, maybe there's something other part of that question. Anybody want to?
Oh, Mackenzie, I think you're on mute.
Carly, I was just thinking through all of the pieces there, but just wanted to echo what Ed said about linking to existing resources. I think that's something that's really a strength of Charging Smart, is bringing together all of these variety of things from all of these trusted resources and getting it in one place for you. So we do have links in the program guide for the training from the organization that Ed mentioned, as well as some guidance from a few other organizations about emergency response guide for vehicle manufacturers, and some fact sheets about emergency EV emergency situations that can arrive, so that folks can have an informed approach to it and not have anything that ends up being unduly prohibitive, and they can come to those conversations informed and advocate for the transition that they think needs to be happening in their community.
Great, thank you. I see that we are right at the top of the hour, and I would love to stay as prompt as we can. So first of all, thank you so much to our speakers today. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us. I believe that our colleague Zach dropped a link in the chat to get in touch with us. But feel free to reach out to any of our emails that were shared today, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.